Hi 4-Hers! Thank you for participating in the Angel Pocket Service Project. I am Analane Powell. I am on the Utah County 4-H Leadership Council and a 4-H leader of the Cool Kids Club. The Utah County 4-H Youth Ambassadors has asked that I put together this tutorial for you on making angel pockets. Angel pockets are burial gowns distributed by local hospitals to families who are mourning the loss of a special loved one. This is what an angel pocket looks like. This is an up-close look of the angel pocket. As you will see, the angel pocket has got different parts. We are going to untie this ribbon. You will see we have a piece of material for the pocket here, a piece of material for the lining. We have the back, which is usually a decorative piece, as well as the ribbon. What makes this special is when we tie it back together to create the envelope in which the special angel will be placed. Alright, so let's talk about the things we're going to need to make our angel pockets. We need a sewing machine, either a pair of scissors or a rotary cutter. And if you're going to use the rotary cutter, make sure you have a mat. We need thread that matches the fabric, pins, a lighter, a seam ripper, your patterns. Then, if you are picking up a pre-cut kit from the 4-H office, it'll look something like this. This will have the pieces pre-cut for you. Or, if you choose to get fabric on your own, you need a pattern, you need fabric for the pocket, you'll need fabric for a lining, and then you'll want a decorative fabric for the back side of the pocket. In addition, you will need some ribbon, and we will be using the iron. So, let's get started. Alright, let's talk about our materials. If you were able to pick up a packet at the 4-H office, let me show you what is included in that packet. You will have pre-cut pieces. You will notice that we have 2 pieces of ribbon. We have a lining piece. The back decorative piece. Your decorative piece may look a little different than this, but it will be noticeable that it is the decorative piece. And then a piece for the pocket itself. So there's 3 square pieces in the packet. If you do not have a packet from the 4-H office and you're doing this with your own supplies, let me show you how we will be cutting those out. First, you will need ribbon. You can either use 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch ribbon. Today I am using 1/4 inch ribbon, and we cut 2 pieces to 7.5 inches long. So what I'm going to do is right here on my cutting mat, I'm going to measure 7.5 inches and take my little blade and cut 1 piece there. So I've got 1 piece, and we're going to cut another piece at 7.5 inches long. Now for today, we are using the 6.5 inch quilter square. You will see this is the quilter square. You can pick these up at Joann's, very easy to find. And all we do is we put it down on the fabric, we take our rotary cutter and just cut around the fabric to make a complete square. And you'll see we have our square. So you will want, again, 3 pieces, one on the decorative fabric, one on a lining style fabric, and one for the pocket. Now if you do not have a square like this, there will be a paper pattern. So you see this nice corner here. You will put that on the fold of the piece of fabric that you're choosing, and feel free to either use your rotary cutter or your hand scissors and just cut your square. And again, you'll want to do this 3 times so that you get 3 squares to put your project together. And so there's our square. Okay, now that we've cut out our fabric, we're going to start assembling the pocket. The first thing we are going to do is we're going to take the piece of fabric that is going to be made for the inside pocket. We are going to fold it in half, wrong sides together. That's right, wrong sides together. So you see that I've got it folded in half here, and I'm going to go ahead and pin to keep it secure. You can see as I pin this fabric, I'm trying to line up the lines as straight as I can. It's okay if it's not perfect, but get as straight as you can. And then after we have this pin, we're going to do a basic seam top stitch along this edge. So we're taking it to the sewing machine, and I am lining it up, the fabric, with the outside edge of my foot. On my sewing machine, it says that that's the 1/4 inch mark. So I'm going to line my fabric up, drop my presser foot, and everything is just normal stitching here. It's just a basic straight stitch. And I do a reverse stitch to lock it in, and then we go forward. And go all the way down to the end of the pocket. And then when we get to the end of the pocket, do another back stitch, and then finish it off. Okay, now that we have finished the top stitch on the pocket, it is time to assemble the pieces together. We're going to take the pocket that we just top stitched and put it on top of the decorative piece, matching the corners. So just like this, you match this corner to this corner. Now sometimes, depending on the fabrics, you might have a small gap right here. That'll be just fine because it will be caught when we do the seam allowance. So when we sew around it, the seam allowance will account for that. So after laying this pocket on top, we're going to take one of our pieces of ribbon and pin it in the corner. So you lay it so it hangs off the edge just a little bit on this side, and then we're going to take our lining piece and stick it off on top of that. So we've got the decorative piece, the ribbon, the corner of the pocket, and the lining, and we're going to place a pin right there to hold it securely. You may have to lift up the fabric to do that. Okay? Then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Now keep in mind, we want to keep our ribbon pieces in the middle so we don't accidentally sew them in the seams, because we don't, other than the corner piece, we don't want them to be sewn into the seams. So for this side, we're going to take it, place the pocket to the corner, and then take the other corner of the lining and place a pin in it. Now that we've got our corners secure, we're going to go around and finish pinning all the way around the pocket before we sew it. Okay, as you can see, I have pinned all the sides together. We're going to take a single basic stitch and go sew around the edge is on a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. I also want to make sure when I'm sewing that I have about a 2-inch opening, because we're going to turn it inside out. So I have marked that by double pins. So with that, let's go to the sewing machine. So I come to the machine. Here is my 5/8 inch marking. So I'm going to set my fabric, put down my thing, and as always, you should take out your pins so you don't break a needle. And then we start sewing, back stitch, And then we continue sewing. Now for this project, I'm not going to pivot and turn here. I'm actually going to run to the end. I'm going to run it off the end. And then do a back stitch here. And then take it, run it off. And then you can pull it and cut your thread. And then start on this side, lining it up with the 5/8 mark and sewing directly down this way. And again, we're going to run it all the way off. Oops, I made an error and ran over a pin. Make sure you pull out your pins. When you get to the corner, make sure you hold the corner still so we don't lose. I'm going to have to lift it up because I think the little decorative piece there got stuck. It did. Alright, so back stitch and pull it off. Then we're going to start again on this side, lining up with the 5/8 inch mark again. Remember to remove your pin. Back stitch. So a couple of times I've run over my pins. That is not a habit to get into. So here we go again, doing our 5/8 inch mark. Now I'm going to stop for a second because it looks like my ribbon has moved. I can see that it looks like the ribbon has moved. So I'm going to move that out of the way because you can see right here the ribbon did a straight thing so I could see before I sewed over that area. To the edge, move that pin, back stitch, and now notice that we are coming up to our stopping point. Just setting my 5/8 inch mark there. So since I'm there, I don't want to run over it. Back. Okay, and now we're finished. What we're going to do next is we are going to remove our pins, and then we're going to go to these corners and clip the corners. This way when we turn it inside out, it'll be a lot easier to maneuver. And then while we're here, if you've got some loose threads, go ahead and cut some of those threads just so that it's easier. And then we're going to turn it inside out. Okay, so I have turned the fabric inside out so you can see that we're almost done with our project. You may need to take your pin and pull out the corners, just like this, so you see that that corner came out. See how they just pop right out when you use the pin? So next, this is the side that we kept open so we could turn it inside out. We're going to tuck that in. I prefer to pin it so it stays closed. If you're good enough to not have to put the pin in place, that's fine. Now before we sew the top stitch, we are going to iron it a little bit. So I'm going to spray it, and I'm going to take my iron and press it. Now the fabric that I'm using today can be touched with an iron. It's not a fragile fabric. If you are using a fragile fabric, you will want to get a different piece of material to lay it on top and then iron it. However, this fabric can tolerate the heat of the iron. So I'm going to take the iron and just press it down. This will make the seams a lot more crisp. And hold it in place for our top stitch. And it's also nice for this pocket piece right here. Sometimes it will curl backwards, so we can just iron it flat, just like that. Okay, now next we're gonna go do our top stitch. All right, so we're gonna take our piece to the sewing machine. We're gonna line our fabric up with the side of our presser foot again. With this being the top stitch and we're closing up that hole, I like to start at where the hole is. So I'm gonna start my presser foot right there. Now, if you have an adjustable stitch length, so meaning the length that the actual stitch is, take it to the biggest length that you have on your sewing machine. But if you don't have an adjustable, or you don't know what that is, you don't need to worry about it. It's just something that makes the stitching look a little bit bigger. Because we are doing a top stitch, I am going to pivot the corners. So when we did the other portion, I ran off the edge. On this, we are not running off the edge. We're going to go to the corner and pivot, 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 and pivot. So remember to remove your pin, and let's get sewing. And I do a back stitch here as well, because I want to keep it in. Now, because I have some decorations on the back side, I may have to lift up my presser foot to stitch over it so it doesn't get caught in the machine. So I can here sounds like we're doing just fine. So I'm going to pivot. It's still a little thick right there. The presser foot doesn't hit all the way down yet, that right there, because of all the decoration. That's okay. Just go a little bit slow. And then when we get down to where it's flat, it's just fine. And we run it along to the top. Keep our needle down to pivot. Kind of got off the edge there, but we'll bring it back in. And so this, again, we're to the corner where it's a little thicker because of all the decoration. We're just going to go slowly over that so we can make sure we don't get stuck. And we put our pivot again. Just go slow at that part right there because we know there's extra fabric and decoration right there. And then as we continue along, now we're back and we can pick up our speed a little bit. Go to the corner, pivot, now we're coming back to our starting point. And then back stitch. And our top stitch is finished. It looks really nice. We've done this nice little top stitch. We're gonna go and trim our strings and be careful not to accidentally cut the fabric. I've done that a couple of times before, so we're just going to cut our strings. So it's nice, clean, and crisp. The very last thing we need to do for this is with our ribbons, we can see that it's fraying. So I have a lighter. You can use one of the long lighters, but I just have a cigarette lighter right here. And I'm gonna light it and just quickly run it under just to burn the edge off and melt it. You just need a quick little run under. You don't need to leave it under there very long. You don't need to burn it or make it black. All we're doing is just lighting it and just running it over and melting the edge just like that. And our pocket is finished. All that's left to do is tie it. And there's our pocket. Thank you for participating in our Angel Pocket project. The donation of these angel gowns will bless many in our county. If you have any questions or run into any problems, my contact information will be on the next slide. Thank you again. Have a great day.